In the summer of 2010, a man walked into the wilderness with a treasure chest and a secret. That man was Forrest Fenn, and inside that 10 by 10 inch box was a fortune in gold nuggets, ancient artifacts, and precious gems. He returned with only a poem, 9 cryptic clues that sent an army of treasure hunters into a frenzy. Many people are crazy about finding lost treasure, but this was different. The hunt for Fenn's treasure became a national phenomenon, a dangerous obsession that would not end until a mysterious medical student announced he had solved the puzzle that stumped the world. Legend of the Bronze Chest. The story begins with a man who was larger than life itself. Forrest Fenn wasn't your typical millionaire. He was a former Air Force pilot, a self-taught archaeologist, and a world-renowned art dealer from Santa Fe, New Mexico. You see, many people are crazy about collecting things, but Fenn took it to another level. His gallery was a museum of wonders, filled with Native American artifacts, priceless paintings, and historical oddities. But his greatest creation wasn't something he sold. It was something he gave away. In 2010, during the dark days of the Great Recession, Fenn published his memoir, The Thrill of the Chase. Tucked inside its pages was a poem, just 24 cryptic lines that would launch one of the greatest treasure hunts in American history. Fenn announced that he had hidden a treasure chest, a real one somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, and the poem was the map. This wasn't just a handful of coins. We're talking about an ornate 10 by 10 inch bronze lockbox.
As mentioned before, Fenn's memoir includes a 24-line poem that Fenn has said includes 9 hidden clues that lead directly to the treasure's location.
Weighing a staggering 42 pounds, its contents were the stuff of legend. Inside were hundreds of American Eagle gold coins, nuggets of raw gold as big as a man's thumb, and shimmering gold dust. But there was more. The chest held ancient Chinese jade carvings, pre-Columbian animal figures, and a 17th century Spanish ring heavy with emeralds. There were rubies, sapphires, and diamonds all jumbled together. The thing nobody tells you is that some of the items were deeply personal. Fenn included a tiny 2,000-year-old fetish necklace and his favorite turquoise bead bracelet, with a special request that the finder return the bracelet to him. To top it all off, he placed a copy of his autobiography inside, preserved in a glass jar. The estimated value? Over $1 million. Fenn's motive was as unique as the treasure itself. He said he wanted to give people hope, to get them off their couches and out into the breathtaking wilderness of the American West. He wanted to give families an adventure, a shared quest in a world increasingly stuck behind screens. And it worked. Oh, it worked better than anyone could have imagined. The story exploded. News outlets, internet forums, and social media lit up with tales of Fenn's gold. A massive community of fanatics was born, all dedicated to cracking the code. They bought maps, studied geology, and pored over every word Fenn ever wrote, looking for hidden meanings. The hunt was on, spanning 4 states: Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico. Fenn gave a few extra hints to narrow it down. He said the treasure was hidden somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000, 200 feet in elevation, and at least 8¼ miles north of his home in Santa Fe. He also said it wasn't in a mine, a cave, or near any man-made structure. All you needed, he claimed, were the poem, a good map, and a little bit of imagination. But this grand adventure had a dark side nobody saw coming. The hunt would soon take a dangerous turn that no one could have predicted. The dark side of the chase. What started as a whimsical adventure quickly spiraled into a consuming obsession for thousands. People didn't just spend their weekends looking, they dedicated their lives to it. They quit their jobs, emptied their savings accounts, and moved across the country to be closer to the search area. The promise of $1 million discovery was a powerful lure, and for many it became an all-or-nothing gamble. Internet forums buzzed 24/7 with complex theories, detailed analyses of the poem's grammar, and heated debates over the meaning of a single word. Some people claimed Fenn was sending them secret messages through his blog posts. Others became convinced they had a special connection to him, that the treasure was their destiny. But not all things are what they seem. The Rocky Mountains are a beautiful but unforgiving wilderness. The rugged terrain, unpredictable weather, and wild animals pose a very real threat to even the most experienced outdoorsmen. For the amateur adventurers drawn in by gold fever, it was a recipe for disaster. Reports started to surface of searchers needing to be rescued after getting lost, stranded, or injured. The hunt turned tragic when people began losing their lives. One man's raft overturned in the turbulent waters of the Rio Grande. Another fell from a steep cliffside while searching. In total, at least 5 individuals perished while looking for Fenn's treasure. These events cast a dark shadow over the hunt. Law enforcement officials and politicians pleaded with Fenn to call it off, to end the madness before anyone else got hurt. Fenn, however, refused. He expressed deep sorrow for the tragic events, but maintained that the search itself wasn't the problem. He argued that people get into trouble in the mountains every day, whether they're hiking, fishing, or hunting for treasure. He felt that calling off the hunt would be an injustice to the thousands who were searching safely and enjoying the adventure he had created. This only fueled the controversy. To some, Fenn was a reckless old man who had unleashed a dangerous game on the public. To others, he was a hero, a champion of freedom and adventure, who couldn't be blamed for the poor choices of a few.
Okay, so I didn't find the treasure, but I found many treasures. This in itself is the biggest treasure of all that I've found. So many magical, wonderful things I could never replace without that treasure hunt. I'm so grateful for Forrest. Thank you, Forrest.
The debate raged on, but the hunt continued, more intense than ever. The stakes were now higher. It wasn't just about finding a fortune anymore. For some, it was about proving the naysayers wrong and honoring the spirit of the chase no matter the cost. The key, everyone knew, was hidden in the poem's 9 baffling clues. Chasing words and waterfalls. The entire hunt hinged on Forrest Fenn's 24-line poem. It was a masterpiece of misdirection, filled with vague imagery and clever wordplay that could be interpreted in 1,000 different ways. The poem contained 9 distinct clues, and Fenn himself confirmed that they had to be solved in order. If you figured out the first clue, it would help you find the second, and so on. For a decade, this puzzle tormented and tantalized the minds of searchers everywhere. The first clue was the gateway. Begin it where warm waters halt. This single line launched countless theories. Did warm waters refer to hot springs? A town named Thermopolis? The point where a warm creek meets a cold river? The possibilities were endless. From there, the poem leads you on a journey. And take it in the canyon down. Not far, but too far to walk. This suggested you had to drive for a bit. The next clue was perhaps the most debated. Put in below the home of Brown. Who or what was Brown? Many believed it was a reference to brown trout, leading them to search along famous fishing rivers. Others thought it might refer to a person named Brown, a mountain, or even a bear. The poem continues with ominous lines like, "From there it's no place for the meek," and "There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high." These clues painted a picture of a difficult, maybe even treacherous location. Searchers looked for places with steep canyons, powerful creeks, and waterfalls. The final clues were the most tantalizing because they signaled that the treasure was close. If you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down, your quest to cease. The blaze became the holy grail of the hunt. Was it a mark carved into a tree? A white streak of quartz on a rock face? A man-made trail marker? Fenn had once hinted that some searchers had unknowingly been within 200 feet of the chest, meaning they had likely solved several clues, but failed to find the blaze.
And this was 2 weeks before Indian Market, which was the big time in Santa Fe. Thousands of people, like 150,000 people, would come to Santa Fe for this Indian Market.
The final lines, "But tarry scant with marvel gaze, just take the chest and go in peace," seemed to be a final instruction for the lucky finder. For 10 years, these words were analyzed, dissected, and debated. Thousands of boots hit the ground, testing every plausible theory, but the treasure remained stubbornly hidden. Then, after a decade of silence, the impossible happened overnight. An ending and a new mystery. On June 6, 2020, after a full decade of searching, the chase came to a sudden and shocking end. The news didn't come from a triumphant press conference, but a simple blog post. Forrest Fenn, then 90 years old, announced the hunt was over. It was under a canopy of stars in the lush forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains, he wrote, confirming the chest had not moved from the spot where I hid it more than 10 years ago. He said the finder was a man from back east who sent a photo to prove it and wished to remain anonymous. The news ripped through the community of thousands of searchers like a wildfire. The forums exploded. After 10 years of shared effort, it was over. But the story was far from finished. A new, far more confusing chapter was just beginning. The mystery of the finder's identity became the new obsession. Who was this person? The silence was deafening, and in that void, wild theories began to take root. You see, many people were crazy about this hunt, and the abrupt ending felt wrong. The most popular theory was that it was a hoax. Had Fenn simply retrieved the chest himself to end the dangerous hunt, especially after several people had lost their lives? Others whispered it was an inside job. They claimed the finder had to be a grandson or a close friend who was simply told the location. The thing nobody tells you is that some theories got even stranger. One persistent rumor suggested the treasure was never really hidden at all, and the whole thing was an elaborate marketing ploy to sell books, with a fabricated ending to wrap it all up. The pressure mounted, and eventually the finder was forced to reveal his name, Jack Stumped, a 32-year-old medical student. But his confirmation only threw gasoline on the fire. Stumped was secretive and elusive. He refused to reveal the location, the state, or even give a hint about how he solved the clues. He claimed the solution was elegant, but that it was his secret to keep, fearing the spot would be overrun. This secrecy created a storm of controversy. Searchers who had invested years of their lives and their life savings felt cheated. They demanded answers. Stumpt's refusal to share the solution felt like a betrayal. This is where the theories went into overdrive. Some searchers became convinced that Stumpte hadn't solved the poem at all. A new, darker theory emerged, that he had somehow hacked into Fenn's computer or emails, stealing the location digitally. This, they argued, would explain why he couldn't share a traditional solve involving the poem's clues. The whole affair devolved into a messy legal battle. Lawsuits were filed, with some plaintiffs claiming Stumpte had stolen their specific solutions and fed them to Fenn. But not all things are what they seem. The most bizarre theory of all was that Jack Stumpte wasn't even the real finder. This theory proposed that he was merely a proxy, a paid actor hired by the true finder, someone incredibly wealthy or high profile who wanted the treasure without the fame or the legal headaches. The incredible discovery didn't feel like a fairy tale ending. It felt unsatisfying and hollow. Was it really possible for one person to just swoop in and solve it overnight after thousands had failed for a decade? It raises a lot of questions. Even with the chest found, the true secret of Forrest Fenn's treasure, the solution to his masterful puzzle, may have been buried forever, creating a bigger mystery than the hunt itself. The treasure has been found, but the mystery is far from over. Was the discovery a stroke of genius or just plain luck? Let us know what you think. Like and subscribe for more incredible stories.